Angela yet. Do they actually have some real connection with James and are some manifestation from him instead? It's kind of hard to say. I mean, we don't actually know what Angela was seeing whenever the abstract daddy was, being fought. All we know was that she had an amazing amount of anger directed at it, and she decided to lash out at it. What we might actually be seeing as the abstract daddy through James's eyes might be dramatically different from what Angela ended up seeing. But since we already know that room 312 is where we do want to inevitably heading, well, we can't go there yet. So I guess we should just go ahead and check out the second floor then. Really, a large portion of the hotel is pretty much blocked off to us, so I'll be making sure not to unnecessarily randomly click on locked doors. But we have a rather full little library down here. Most of these books cannot be interacted with, and it seems that the medical books James doesn't even want to have to deal with, as apparently medical science has let him down in the past, and he really does not care at this point. But there is quite a storehouse of items waiting for us in what I assume to be the coat check room. I've never actually been to a hotel that had a coat check room on the second floor, but, maybe it's just the way the hotel is set up. But there's a number of bullets waiting for us, and a locked briefcase. Now, I originally didn't even know how you were supposed to figure out the solution to this, but the fish key that we found down in the restaurant is actually what you use to unlock this bag. If there are some hints as to this, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think I missed any type of journal entries or pieces of writing. I guess you were just supposed to assume that, since you didn't have any other keys available, that must be the key to use on the briefcase. But it's, I don't know. It's a bit obtuse to figure out, I guess. But now that we have the key to room 204, I guess we should go ahead and head down there and check out what's in there. But not before dealing with another two abstract daddies. Now, that's not to say there's a lot of enemies in the hotel. It's actually quite minimal, and it's more trying to focus on the overall story, especially since we are getting near the end of the game. But really, if you've been focusing on melee for most of the game, the abstract daddies definitely are not going to be melee friendly. And in apartment or room 204, we find the employee elevator room key. And I was trying to find a note that was apparently supposed to be near one of the heaters, involving something about Johnny and really heating things up, but I wasn't able to find it for some reason. And we find a briefcase, or a suitcase I should say, that has a 4-letter combination. And a bed covered with pictures of different characters from Silent Hill, along with the monsters. And one particular picture of importance that has the briefcase on it, but it's got the combination markered over. So thankfully this particular little puzzle is pretty easy to figure out. I mean, we have paint thinner, so I guess marker is some type of paint. Honestly, I would kind of assume that the thinner would actually ruin the picture itself, but, you know, I'm not a paint thinner expert. And our word combination is lose. From the quite a few times that I've actually played through this, that combination seems to change to a 4-letter word every time you play through. So if I played through again, it wouldn't be lose the second time. And inside the suitcase is our next music box for Cinderella. Actually, all of the music box locations kind of correspond to the stories themselves. Take, for instance, the first one, which was found at a water fountain. It corresponded to the Little Mermaid, who, as you can imagine, being a mermaid, lived in water. The second one we just found for Cinderella was a bit more obtuse in its meaning. If you notice the fact that the suitcase was covered in different location stickers, that was supposed to apparently allude to the fact that the prince, while having to look for Cinderella, traveled to a great many locations. I suppose that might be stretching, but that's apparently what people seem to think. But there is not too much on this side, just the employee elevator room. So let's go ahead and get in the elevator and be greeted by a very loud, annoying sound, to say the least. And none of the buttons seem to work, so there has to be something else to this. Oh. Apparently, there is only a weight allowance of 1 person. Finally, the game seems to recognize the fact that James, having to carry around 400 boxes of bullets, a giant-ass sword, you know, any number of weapons and items and pictures and things like that, that he probably weighs a good metric ton. So we can't obviously ride the elevator. So we have to dump all our items onto that shelf, one at a time, but to rid you of having to watch that, I decided to cut that out. And now that we are unencumbered by all of our equipment, we can ride the elevator down to the first floor. Now you may be wondering what happens if we actually get into combat. Well, we'll be seeing that in just a little bit. But we are now in the employees section of the hotel itself. You'll see that the map is a bit different for the first floor. There's quite a few little employee lounges and offices and things like that. But before we head over that way, we should actually head over to these refrigeration units. We'll notice that one of them is lit up, and this is actually the only one that is unlocked. And waiting for us is the Snow White music box, which, if you notice, is near an apple. And if you're familiar with the story, the witch, or the evil queen, I'm having trouble remembering if she was exactly a witch or what, but she put Snow White to sleep through the use of a poisoned apple. So, apple, poison apple, makes sense. But in the office here, we finally get access to that videotape that we forgot 3 years ago. And additionally, waiting for us underneath the videotape is a can opener. Perhaps we'll be using the can opener as a weapon. But yet again, a good majority of these offices and things are kind of locked off to us. there is this particular lounge over here which has two very useful items waiting for us, which are more rifle shells. You really do not get a lot of rifle shells in the game, so it's good to look for them as hard as you can, because they will be very useful for some upcoming fights. But upon heading down into the basement, we find our path pretty well obstructed by some mannequins. And really the only thing you can do, since you really don't have any means of punching or defending yourself without weapons, is to try and shove past them. And waiting for us in the boiler room is a med kit and a rather hard to see key. Hopefully you made sure to pick up this key and not run straight along, otherwise you're going to have to push your way back through the mannequins in an effort to obtain the key. But we have finally reached what is actually the kitchen of Venus Tier. And what do we find in the kitchen but a rather large unlabeled can? So I guess it's rather coincidental that we found the can opener in the first place, but what could possibly be waiting for us in the can? Light bulbs, I guess? I don't even think this is supposed to be a metaphor or anything. It just seems like they didn't want to just have light bulbs sitting out in the middle of nowhere. But, maybe somewhere out there there's actually a reason for light bulbs to come in a can. But I can't think of any. So we are now in the Venus Tier, obviously a very fishing-oriented bar to say the least. But we cannot actually use the key itself. Normally the flashlight would probably illuminate the door, allowing us to use the key. But since we don't have a flashlight, we'll just have to use the next closest thing, which is this lamp sans bulb. And wouldn't you know it, we just got a light bulb from the previous room, so we can shove that in here, and now the door is illuminated. And wouldn't you know it, some more mannequins are waiting in the wait to attack us, and that guy somehow teleported over to me. I don't know how that happened. Thankfully, hopefully you made sure to kill those abstract daddies, otherwise you're going to have a really tough time navigating some of these halls. But I actually wanted to go up to the 3rd floor because they were supposed to... Apparently if you go up to this chain link gate right here, it's supposed to trigger Maria yelling out for James, but I was not able to get it to trigger, so oops. But let's go ahead and go back to the employee elevator room and see if we can't get back all of our stuff. And more mannequins are waiting in wait to try and take you down. Thankfully though, I think we can show those mannequins what for once we get back all of our equipment. Let's see if they like some shotgun. Well, yeah. So the mannequins pretty much despawn once you actually get all your equipment back, and they're mostly just to be an annoyance while you're completely unarmed. But we now have all 3 music boxes, so let's go ahead and go down and see if we can't solve this puzzle. Now first, we already know